Encryption's too complicated. We're up and going. Okay, this should be working now. We are live. Woohoo! Bob, go ahead.
Well, we all have telephones. Most of us have TVs, and we have internet.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, you can have telephone over the internet. Okay?
Yes.
You can have TV over the internet.
Yes.
Is there any way of having inexpensive internet service? And how do they provide internet service? Like Comcast, Telmex. How does that come about? And is there any, right now, it appears that we have one source. And if that source goes out, or they decide that they want to raise the rates, we're all going to be hurting.
Well, what do you mean by one source? Because that's against the way internet works in general. I mean, we really don't have one source.
In rural areas, you pretty much have one source.
Yeah.
If you have Comcast, you don't have another choice. Or Verizon or whatever.
There's nothing else.
In cities, you have smaller companies that start up because there's more customers.
Well,
In
yeah.
rural areas, you're screwed.
And I really thought Bob was talking about this area here. And in this area here, we've got 5 different sources for internet. It's just we've all narrowed down on the best solution for wherever it is we're located. Telmex ends up being the best solution for you. And I mean, you could use a cell network, but there's bandwidth caps, and maybe you don't want to be concerned with running over and paying extra charges. So you've decided not to use the cell network. You've decided to go with Telmex because cable's not available. But maybe cable's
Mega cable won't come in.
right. Like where I am out in the Ranchitos, they don't have a mega cable. But I could consider cell because 4G is really good out in my area. I just don't want the extra expense. I want to have the unlimited bandwidth cap, and I don't want to. I don't want to deal with the cell's bandwidth cap rules. Like they've got caps on it, like 5 to 10 gigabytes a month, and then you pay extra fees.
One historical note on that. Back in the 1980s, there were 2,000 cable companies in the United States, and none of them had the internet.
Right.
Oh, brother.
And now there are about 5, and the internet, they control the internet pretty much.
Right. Well,
So
and
that's a whole different economic thing, you know. But
well, no, you're absolutely right.
and they're going to out of the dish business very soon.
A satellite business or the local Wi-Fi provider, the X-Pro provider. So
That's not what I was really asking. I was asking, really, is there any alternative?
Yes, stop communicating.
Huh? Newspapers.
Communicating.
get a newspaper.
No. I want to communicate. Okay? So, are we?
But you mean-
And what I'm looking at in the big cities is that there's 10, 15 providers. Okay, and in Tucson there's like 3 or 4, and they're all not very good. And so I'm looking at and saying, does the FCC or whoever maintains this, do they have a lock on states, or does the state have a lock on who can provide?
Go through Maggie.
I don't know.
Bob, we'll talk.
Website, under chat, under email. Number 2 right now on this list of vendors. The other thing that came as a shock to me is ASUS, the manufacturer of my laptop, and Samsung, the manufacturer of the exploding phone, are on the worst. The worst 3 in order from least worst to worst is ASUS, Samsung, and then MSI. And if you're from Canada, you're probably very familiar with MSI. That's another brand name that gets distributed around a lot. ASUS and MSI are awesome developers of technology, so it doesn't surprise me that they would be down on the support. They come out of hardware. They don't come out of consumer electronics. I'm really surprised that Samsung would be down on that list because Apple has turned themselves into a consumer-facing computer company. They are a consumer electronics company. That's why it's just not surprising that they would have such good customer support.
Is Lenovo on that list at all?
I think it is. I'll put the link on the website so you can check it out. It's a large list of manufacturers, and they had a criteria that they went through of how they would rate, and everybody got a rating from 1 to 5 on certain things, like how long did it take to get a hold of somebody that could help you, how hard was it to find support by phone, by web, wait times for things like chat, things like that. And they put together an algorithm and then compared it. I think it should just work. A little different with Apple is very patient with things like, I don't know how to use iMovie, right? And like Asus would never spend any time helping me edit, right? It's like, what? The screen works, keyboard works, the battery works. Why are you calling? Is more install a drive. They gave me the link, and it was as easy as. I mean, whenever I get into these, I try not to be a technician when I get into these situations. I want to have the experience that you guys are, because I want to know what prompted somebody to call me to come deal with it. Right. And it was very good. They sent me an email. It had a link in it. If you're going to click on a link in email, you better be expecting to get a link. Don't do it. Don't even try to deal with them in English.
To help you, they can answer questions about how to do this and if we should do this. Anybody know anybody down there? Okay. Well, if I
Offhand.
find out, I'll let you know.
Yeah, offhand, I would think just starting out with a Bell. He's really approachable. He's the young guy that.
Yeah, I know he is.
Yeah. I mean, I would start my questions with him because he's. I love when he does work. He does things like follows up with you.
So does
He's like.
Carlos.
Carlos is very
who
good
came to
too.
my house Friday. He speaks a lot of English, and he was very efficient. He told me everything that was wrong and how he was going to fix it.
Yeah. And then when it starts working again, you'll end up with a phone call later. And you'll be like, so it's all working okay, right?
Yes.
You've done a speed test. If you're happy with everything that's happened, I mean, he really knows
I
what
used to
he's
get
doing.
along with him real well until one day he get a hold of him. I walked back through that door and says no admittance, and then he's never spoken to me since. That's the truth.
Don't listen to him.
That was about 3 years ago.
His cell phone number. So if I had a problem, just
Doesn't
call him on
work
his cell
anymore
phone.
though.
He gave me, well, this was a month ago.
Oh, so you have a new number. Because my number doesn't work anymore that I had.
It's fiber optic cable where you are now. What's going to replace fiber optic cable? Is it all going to
Nothing soon. It's the most amazing technology we have for cable infrastructure.
So Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about you can get 1 gigabit connections across fiber optic right now, and they're about to move up to 10 gigabits a second, and they're talking about 100 gigabits a second. So there's no reason. They right now, from our perspective, that looks like an infinite capacity. It's all about how creative they are with the technology. Well, and even the DSLs are just mind-boggling. When ADSL came on the scene around here, I couldn't imagine more than 3 megabits a second. There was a hard limit in the States at 6 megabits a second. And now they've tweaked that, and Jim's getting 20 megabits a second just off of his post running standard copper twisted pair on a DSL connection. It's just...
Well, I'm a block off the fiber though.
Right. But the fact that you could pump that across that piece of copper gives you an idea of how infinite the copper is, and the fiber optic is so much more. There's so much more possible capabilities there. Did you have a question over there?
Yeah, just along the lines of Maggie, I had the same problem with my phone and internet. Hi Maggie. And I went in there, asked to get it fixed, and looking at this piece of paper, they have a promotion on right now, and I went from 10 megabytes to 20 for the same price for a 3-month trial period.
Where's your
Oh,
place
cool.
located?
Is it working?
Shangri-La.
Is it working, Bob? Are you actually
And I
getting
get
it?
20.
You're getting 20 in Shangri-La?
Price-
Really?
Price is
Really?
10. So for 389 pesos, I get a phone and 20. And it actually works.
Wow.
Well, that's
Oh,
what
For
I
3
pay,
months.
so I should be
We
getting
don't
it.
get
There's
that
a
in
promotion. I've made it so
Ranch.
much. I should have asked if there was a
We don't
promotion
even
on the
have
big
fiber.
one.
No.
Well, there's fiber
It's
optics
close.
going down First Street. That's how Jim gets his. But I'm far enough away from it, they can't guarantee more than a 10 megabit connection, and it normally maxes out around 8 and 9 megabits a
It
second.
ends on G.
Yeah.
And Loma Del Mar will never have it.
not without some really retooling in that area.
Never.
I read an article where Telmex, one of their engineers, came out with a way of really improving the speed through copper. It was quite a technology. I wish they'd put it in the U.S.
Hey, I am working down a list of topics here with a goal. Did you guys hear about the 38 Android phones that were purchased by two specific companies that have been left unnamed in the media that were discovered later to have arrived new with malware on them?
Oh,
This is pretty significant because what they're identifying is that these phones left manufacturer clean and showed up dirty. And somewhere in the supply chain, they were infected with malware. And the malware is serious malware. They say that of the malware that was discovered, there's malware there to steal personal information. There's malware there to throw advertising up on your phone. And they even found a copy of Slocker, which I wasn't that aware of by that name, but it's a ransomware app. So it's one that can encrypt the entire phone and then send you a message going, if you want all this information back, send 2 Bitcoins to such and such address to get your phone back. These were corporate phones. This was a slew of phones sent out to a corporation, bought in bulk. The most frustrating thing about these is that all these things were installed at a system administrator level, which most normal people don't have access to. Which also means you probably couldn't have solved this problem or recognized this problem as a normal person. Even if you recognized it, you'd still have to have administrative rights on your phone, which most normal people don't. You haven't jailbroke your phone to get rid of the problem. And if your phone arrived like this, you wouldn't even notice a difference in performance because your phone would have always behaved like this from day one.
Right.
So there wouldn't be any indicator that there was something fishy going on in the background. This is just the way the phone works. And it really brings into question any possible discount phone you might be buying. You know, there's these places that buy up traded in phones and sell them off in bulk. They refurbish them, right? Supposedly a lot of these are legitimate. I'm assuming that's what these companies were using, was some legitimate third party. They're not Samsung, they're not AT&T, they're some third party that bought up the phones that were being brought back so that their customers could buy new phones at a discount, and then they've taken those phones, they verified that they work still, they got good batteries, they cleaned them off, and then they've sent them back. So supposedly that's where these kinds of phones may have ended up. And now that I say that, I'm wrong, because this article was referring specifically to brand new phones. So somewhere in the chain, they ended up infected.
So how would they determine 38 or 30-some phones? How would they?
It's a security group. What's the name of them? I don't have
A
it.
security
Checkpoint.
security group.
That's pretty.
Actually what I'm saying is they found 36 phones.
Maybe more.
Yeah, they found 36 phones associated with 2 companies that made bulk purchases. They were all infected with this same. Yeah, you're right. It could be more. It could be your phone. And what I did was I mixed 2 topics right there. The only recommendation, there was no recommendation how to identify this. They're still trying to sort out how to deal with this kind of problem. But the recommendations from the security firm were, be careful when you buy from third parties instead of directly buying, because they could be doing this kind of stuff. That was not what happened here. This is the only advice I have, is the only thing you can do is be wary of these kinds of problems. You probably don't want to buy from a questionable third party because there's less chance something like this could happen. Saying that there's a higher chance that this kind of thing would happen from a third party, even though that's not the case here. This was something in the supply chain.
Who's the they that will spend time and effort to determine that first of all this occurred and then correct it otherwise?
Yeah, it's a very good question. In this case, it was security analysts for the companies that brought it to their attention. This checkpoint that has done the review on this, they're one of those companies that you hire to monitor your network traffic as a corporation and let you know. I actually just recently had an experience with this for one of the companies that I work with. We get this email, phone call, email, all follow up, that one of our computers is infected with a brand new style of malware that our antivirus is not finding.
Recognizing.
Yeah, and they're able to recognize it because they see it flowing out of our network because they're hired to monitor our network traffic. So I speculate that's what Checkpoint was doing, is they were doing that for these two companies and discovered this malware, tracked it down to the phones that were just recently purchased. Gary, I don't know how to do it for your phone, right? And if I got a great deal on a phone on Amazon, maybe that's a dangerous thing. Maybe that's something that's happening now, is that these phones are compromised before they get sent out to you. And if they happen at the ROM level, there's no way for you to know any difference. That's the way the phone came. That's the way you've always known the phone to work. We've already had one other experience. No, we've had more than one, but we have one other famous experience with a blue phone offered by Amazon for discount because it shoots advertisement at you. It's a phone that would normally cost $150 is available for $99 from Blue, as long as you get the Amazon special deal. And what on your lock screen, Amazon just pops up advertising trying to get you to buy from them. Well, it turns out the third party that developed that ROM for that phone was collecting all the information from that phone. It was phoning home with all your activities, and those activities were being gathered in a database that could be sold, used for cross-marketing. So that's a famous story that's less than a year old that's happened. And that was Amazon vetting a phone for their customers, discovering later it wasn't Blue, it wasn't Amazon, it was this third party that was used to build the Amazon fork of this software. And they did it on purpose. It wasn't an accident that they were collecting this information. It was one of those, we'll ask for forgiveness later.
Well, you've said for many years, you've said there is no such thing as security. Okay? And we understand that, but the trick is not to get paranoid, because 99% of the people out there think that everything is clean, everything is safe. We got all this,
Well, it is interesting, and this Vault 7 stuff is really interesting. If you guys aren't paying attention to it, let me hit some quick highlights on this. Vault 7 is this mass dump of CIA leaks that has just hit us, and the stories will be coming out of this for months, years, very similar to the original Snowden dump. They're still finding out more and more stuff that was going on. But some of the key aspects I thought that everyone should know about is, one of the biggest points in this dump is the CIA lost all their exploits. So everything that I'm about to tell you about, all the tools the CIA have been using for monitoring people, and most of Vault 7 is about monitoring specific devices. So Snowden was all about mass data collection across networks, right? This is about micro data collection on individual devices. And they lost their stockpile, their armory of these kinds of exploits. The CIA was hacked. All their exploits have been grabbed, and now there are entities out on the internet that have the hacking capacity of the CIA. Right, that's one of the biggest things that's come out of this. Another thing that came out of this is they're saying that this Frankfurt base, that's this U.S. consulate in Frankfurt, Germany, is actually a CIA covert hacker base. And the reason they've picked this is because they can give them diplomatic status, get them into Germany, and then from there they have access to 25 neighboring countries that don't require any kind of identification. They can come and go. They can plug in their resources in any of those countries to monitor that information.
They don't know yet if this was internal or external, right?
Where the dump came from? I haven't seen anything so far that shows where it's come from. We also learned that the CIA maintains a library of stolen exploits. And this is very interesting because the CIA can actually, with this, they can go in and hack a specific country, making it look like it was another country hacking them. So you can do things like hack the U.S. election and make it look like the Russians did it. Just to bring it up to speed with what's going on in our world that are connected to the internet. And the most overt means this could be even worse than you could imagine, not to throw fear out there. I want an answer to this question. I want to know if that's actually what has happened here. And it doesn't matter whether you bought your computer or you bought your Samsung TV with a microphone or a webcam with it, that you're still at risk because it's a smart TV, a programmable controller, they're suave enough to be able to change the input direction. They're definitely smart enough to make the TV look like it's turned off. That's the idea of the covert microphone, is that they're able to turn on the microphone and your TV's sitting there in the off position. And those conversations are just getting warehoused at a covert CIA server. The last thing that I wanted to point out.
Isn't it the same with the things you talked to on your table?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's NSA, FBI. That's happening right now. But you can bet the CIA doesn't have to hack an act. You have hacked yourself with it.
Okay.
Yeah. You have made it clear that you're not worried about personal privacy by putting that into your life. The last thing that really bothers me as a technician is that it is documented that the CIA is hoarding exploits that they could be informing the industry about. That when they find a hack on an Apple device or a Samsung device, they are not sharing that information with the company, and they are leaving the rest of us at risk.
Yeah.
And that's what really bothers me, is they have a civil responsibility to provide that information to manufacturers so that everything is getting tightened up and secured. I understand their need to have information, have covert information, but we as a people shouldn't be in an agency that would leave us out there hanging. So it's, whose fault is it that I had my ID stolen? Really? I mean, if the CIA is scared to talk about my, I don't see that ever changing. This fear right now, the concern is the oversight, because it is not to the benefit of us individuals, and that's where, in my opinion,
in a 2-week period, and the second time, like when we got home the first time, like the first time they just turned him over, and he and his wife, they didn't think any, well, they did think about it, but they turned it over. They had nothing to hide, so yeah. And he went home and he thought about it, and he thought, this isn't right. This is like without a warrant and with no cause.
And born in the U.S., they were born in the United States.
They were.
Yeah.
In all cases, they were second and third generation Mid-Eastern. They all had Mid-Eastern appearance.
I was second
and
origin.
But they were
And,
U.S. citizens.
So the second time he went through, they asked again, and he said, no, this isn't right. You can't do that.
right?
And they actually tackled him, and the one guy grabbed him by the throat and stuff, and they took his phone away from him. And his wife jumped back, and she just gave her phone.
Yeah.
But they actually physically accosted him.
Muhammad Ali's kid's been stopped twice in
Yeah,
airports in the
Yeah.
last 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, but,
Him and his wife.
That's how we are at this point.
but he didn't want to give up his passport. He didn't want to show identification. That was in the news too. He refused to give him any identification.
They didn't want to come in.
Yes, that's why he,
I'll check that out.
yes.
Yeah, that's the first time I had heard that about
Oh, he
the
refused.
Ali Jr. story. Yeah.
Yeah, I
He
did.
refused.
Well,
I did read about that.
I don't know, but the refusing the phone, I definitely heard about that, and I was really surprised by the reaction of. I mean, I could see them holding you up for hours because you refused to give them the phone. Along with that article was this incredible spike in, they were reporting on this incredible spike in asking for digital devices and having digital devices searched
Just in
by
the last couple of weeks.
well, just in this last year. I mean, I don't know about in the last couple of weeks, but in the last year, there's been like 1,000% increase in asking to search digital
It
devices.
turns out it's legal for them to demand your phone.
Yeah, it's been legal for years now for them to demand
Yeah,
the
but
phone.
they've never done it.
That was, they researched
Well-
it, and they said it actually goes back to sub-amendment or whatever in 1886 or something. So that
Well, they were-
particular amendment to the Constitution, protecting civil rights and privacy, has actually, since 1886, has never applied to the borders. So if you're coming across the border, coming into the country, it's never applied in the first place. So. Or since 1886.
But it's there.
But it's there. Yeah,
It's there.
they can do it. They are within the rights to ban your phone.
Scott,
Yes.
There wasn't a phone.
technology, we oftentimes think that the United States is the best in the world.
See, guys.
Is the best in the world for technology. Is that really true, or where is the
Technological center of the world.
technological? Thank you. Where is the technological
You got the stuff I said.
empire in the world?
Silicon Valley.
China.
Is it in the United States?
I couldn't read the phrase, I had to think.
Or is it
Yeah,
Japan?
I said it. It's-
Taiwan?
Yeah, Korea. Where Samsung is South Korea.
I know.
Yeah, Japan has been in the past.
I mean, you see Mexicans running around with, everybody's got a cell phone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And you go to Europe,
yeah.
everybody's got a cell phone.
Sure. Yeah.
My daughter's in India today, and we were talking with her this morning.
Boy, India's, for years been a tech central area, very sophisticated people, tech suave. That's why we had so many tech jobs outsourced and so many techs from there come over to the United States to do work. They have a huge population of highly educated people.
Right.
So you really don't know where there's got to be some place that's really prominent.
The brain.
The-
Where's the brain?
I don't know.
well, even Russia has highly educated hackers. I have always laughed at the Russians hacking the election idea because Russians hack everything. I mean, we hack everything, but Russia has some of the most sophisticated hackers. It's hard to attribute that to an agenda. That's just what they do. They hack everything.
It's a way of life.
It's hard to. They would have to. What we're arguing about is whether they had an influence on Trump winning the election.
Right.
Yeah.
I have trouble believing that, but I don't have any problems believing they were involved in hacking in our election. That's just what they do. They hack everything.
And so, as you said, so do we.
Right, and so do we. Why would we expect any... The reason that people are so burned is because they know exactly what we're capable of doing. So
That's where the fourth estate again is dishonest, because instead of discussing that, it goes down a certain direction. It makes the population feel like, oh my goodness, this is horrible here.
yeah, fear.
What's been
Yeah,
going on.
that's the meeting.
I think that's one of the biggest
That's
problems
the
we
main
have, is that we don't educatalize where the information, actually understand that wherever it's coming from, they all have their own philosophy and agenda. And that influences what they're saying.
Absolutely.
And I don't think the younger generation especially is
Gives a
aware of
shit.
that at all. I really don't.
Well, the
You
argument-
know, when
I
I
think
was
this-
growing up, they taught you know, that this newspaper and this thing, this is their agenda. And you understood when you read something that it was influenced by this particular philosophy.
They used to be called the Topeka Democrat or the Oklahoma Republic.
Okay.
Yeah, right.